Well, you're going to find this often with Richard Dawkins and many evolutionists as they equate natural selection and evolution as the same thing. Natural selection is a loss of information. Evolution requires a gain of information. This has never been observed in nature.
Well, yes, it does require an increase in information, and that is provided by mutation, random genetic change, plus non-random selection. That is precisely where the information comes from. It's a very simple process to understand. It's very complicated in its details, but that is where the information comes from.
Dr. Dawkins, thank you for responding to my presentation, but what you offered was an assertion, not a scientific answer. There are clear differences between natural selection and evolution. Natural selection reduces or redistributes pre-existing genetic information. It does not produce new information. Evolution, by your own definition, requires a net gain of new, complex, functional genetic information, the kind needed to move from molecules to man, evolution. Natural selection and evolution are not the same process. Now to mutation specifically, because that was the essence of your response. Dr. Lee Spetner, biophysicist and fellow at Johns Hopkins University, reviewed the molecular evidence and concluded that all mutations studied at the molecular level reduce genetic information. Not a single observed mutation has added information to the genome, not one. Let's look at one of the favorite examples, antibiotic resistance in bacteria, often cited as evolution in action. But what actually happens? The bacterium loses information to produce a functional enzyme. The antibiotic can no longer bind. The bacterium survives, but it is now less fit in a normal environment. Bacteria are still bacteria. That is not a gain of information. In the Lenski long-term evolution experiment, which involves 70,000 generations of E. coli, what was the celebrated result? Adaptions that involved the loss or disruption of existing genetic function, not the origin of new complex information. 70,000 generations of bacteria, E. coli, is still E. coli, no new information. And here is the foundational problem. The information in DNA cannot be derived from the chemical properties of the molecules that carry it, any more than the meaning of a sentence can be derived from the properties of the ink and paper. Information requires an author, so natural selection is a real process. Young Earth creationists affirm it. God designed it as a mechanism to allow His creation to survive in a post-fall, post-flood world. It sorts, it preserves, it adapts, but it only functions as a downhill process using information already present in the original created genome. There are clearly defined reproductive barriers written into the DNA code by the Creator God, preventing organisms from reproducing outside their creator kinds. Lions, tigers, cheetahs, all feline kinds. Wolves, German shepherds, chihuahuas, all canine kinds. This is observable and repeatable, exactly what Genesis 1 declared. Dr. Dawkins, you said design is written all over the world, and I completely agree. The difference between us is simply this. I believe the author, the Creator God, signed His work, and the signature is still there. Romans 1:20 reminds us, "For His invisible attributes, and namely His eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly perceived ever since the creation of the world in the things that have been made, so they are without excuse."